This is my 1993 Nighthawk 250. Obviously not stock. I've been riding it for about 3 years in this form. And prior to that, it was my first bike, which I guess I've had it for a total of about 8 years. And I rode it stock for a while. And I tried to sell it a couple points. I bought the bike for $800 and people would only offer me like $400 or $500, and it was a perfectly fine running bike. It looked pretty much as it should. The only thing different where someone had like chopped the pipe short, so it's pretty loud. And I didn't really want to sell for that much because it was my most reliable bike, and I figured I might as well just keep it because I'm not really making that much off of it. And I eventually cut the back end off, which was kind of scary at first, taking a leap like that, because I'd never done that kind of thing. I never really worked on engines at that point, never done any metal work. And I made like this battery box out of sheet aluminum, and I rode it like that for a while. I made this seat out of a skateboard and like bolted it together. But I rode it like that for a couple years, and then I picked up a welder at one point, just like a Harbor Freight welder, and just was messing around with that, and figured, you know what, I could probably put a frame together. And I mean, I wasn't going to sell the bike in the chop form if I couldn't sell it in stock form, so I figured why not? If it doesn't work out, I'll just have an engine to sell. So that's what I did. I started out with the TC Brothers Universal Hardtail kit, which came with like 4 bent pieces, and the 2 over there. It came with some straight pieces, came with the dropouts, and it came with like thick slugs, which I used as like bungs. I drilled and tapped them, but I think they were intended to like put in the tube so you get extra support underneath for welding. I'm not totally sure. But in addition to that, I had to buy some steel for like the down tube. That was the only bend I had to make down there. And I made the handlebars, and I also had some like, I think this is like 16 gauge that I used for various tabs. And then there's like a thick 1/4 inch plate down there that the main engine mount is mounted on. In addition to that, I made the sissy bar, that's just like round bar. The fender, it was like a universal fit tractor fender, and I had to like cut an inch out of the middle and put it back together to get it snug on the tire. Tank's an old Sportster tank. It's probably one of the most expensive things aside from the steel. This light is from Dime City, which is it's pretty nice. Initially I had like a cheap eBay piece on here with like $20, and that thing kept blowing fuses. I got a fuse tucked under here, and it was just like an endless problem. I couldn't even ride the bike at night for a while because the headlight would always go out, and I couldn't find anything wrong with the wiring. So eventually I just bought a little bit more expensive light. It's probably 40, 50 bucks, and I haven't had a problem since. Wheels are stock. Whole fork triple tree setup is stock. The steering stem is the only stock part of the frame I kept because I didn't know how to make this. And that was a problem getting this to weld. I guess it's like the frame was like some alloy, and it like I couldn't get the stick to the steel that I had. It would just like blow out because I was stick welding, and it wasn't ideal. But I just had to keep like dabbing it, building it up, and then grinding it smooth. It's a stock motor mount down there. Air cleaner. I've had this for a long time, since I did the initial chop up. Just like a hot rod air cleaner. Got it on eBay. I made the seat. I actually learned how to sew because of motorcycles. Buying old bikes, the seats are always all torn up. And I usually do like a fiberglass base when I make my own entire seat. I make like a fiberglass base, carpet padding, maybe upholstery padding. And I really love how the seat turned out. It's really comfy too because you got a little back support. In addition to that, the build was just, the easy part is the frame. You think that's going to be the hard part, and it's not easy, but once you get the frame done, you realize you have to get the motor to fit somehow, because it's not meant to fit this. It wasn't meant to be in this form. So like everything has to attach at some point, you know, like the rear brake switch, and everything, like the electrical stuff's all in this box I made. The I don't know what this thing's called, but it has to mount somewhere. And even like the brake rod was too short, so I just like drilled a hole in two ends of this rebar and welded it on. It's fine. Endless problem I have is the exhaust pipes. They just keep breaking off. I think I'm gonna buy new pipes eventually, at least just new pipes for just new stock pipes or used stock pipes. But I think this one's on here, but it's all rusty, and I don't even get around to painting it because it'll just break off again. I think because there's just like ever so much flex in the frame that it'll just kind of bend a little bit and snap off. That one came off the other day, and I just kind of got it rigged up there. For this, the tools I used were really rudimentary. I used like a Harbor Freight stick welder, angle grinder, and a drill. I think I might have the drill here. Yeah, there it is. I just use this as like my, just like my cleaning up drill now, because it's not even variable speed and it's corded. Just use it to clean up steel. But yeah, that's crazy. Like drilling holes without variable speed. That's how much I didn't know when I made this thing. I would just go full speed. I didn't even use cutting oil. I was going through bits like crazy. And I think if I made this now, I'd be a lot better off. Learned a lot during this build. And I think the plan is to give this a once over, because the welds aren't that good. I didn't grind them down too well. I used to live in like a row home, so I'd be out back cutting all these fish mouth cuts like just by eye with the angle grinder, and I was just out there all day for like felt like months. So when it came time to like clean it up, I was just like, I don't want to subject all my neighbors to this noise, so I just left it. And but I think that I'll strip it down. I've since learned how to TIG weld and MIG weld, and I might go over everything, or at least grind them smooth, all the welds. Maybe get it powder coated, and then try to clean up just like everything, like all these wires down here. Maybe try to get them in the frame or something. Not sure. Maybe clean up, like cut off these tabs from the triple tree. Just make it look a little nicer. Probably strip this paint off the forks and try to get them shine. But yeah, this was a fun build. It's like my daily still. I got my Sporty over here, and this is my other project. It's finally coming together. But this thing has been my daily for the whole winter. The hardtail kind of sucks in the city, at least where I live in the Northeast. A lot of potholes, just to dodge them. Kind of makes it a more enjoyable to ride, or more interesting. Rather than just hitting stop signs, you got something to swerve. But I'd say if I were to do this again, definitely MIG or TIG welder. Probably, I'd like to say TIG, but I'm not that good at it, so I'd probably go MIG. And some kind of like tubing notcher. I've seen things where you could like put a drill in a mount and like put it at certain angles, and you get a hole saw and you can cut like the correct fish mouth cuts, because forming them by hand, by eye, was so hard, and I definitely didn't get good, like, you know, like meeting. I'd have gaps and I'd have to like fill them in. It was really tough. I'd say that would help a lot. A drill press, which I now have, and a jig. For the jig for this, it was just I used a big plank of wood and just had like higher points with like platforms for like the rear axle. I made like this like angled mount for the forks. I made it all with like a hand saw and nails. It was crazy, but it turned out pretty straight. I mean, I can let my hands go on this thing and I won't veer off the road. Another thing I love is the front drum, if you can believe it. On a 93, on their like sportier version over the Rebel, they put a front drum brake. It's kind of bizarre. But that's about it. I'd say if you're thinking about doing this kind of thing, go for it, but plan it out. I spent a lot of time just sitting and staring at this. It didn't happen overnight. It was like an entire summer, and I didn't get around finishing until it started getting cold out. And I love the thing. Other people love it. I get more attention on this than any other bike. Probably this XL, once I get it running, people will like that thing. But everyone always asks me if this is like a Triumph or a Harley, just because of the style I went for, I guess. But no, it's a 93 Honda. So, I don't know. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. I know it's not in the greatest shape, and it definitely could use a once over. But, yeah, let me know what you think.